Welcome to the Ashley Lay Real Estate Podcast. On episode 3, our past client, Cindi Tripken, joins us to chat about how downsizing changed her life.
Hi, this is Ashley Lay with Ashley Lay Real Estate in Keller Williams, and we are here for our second podcast. How exciting! Woohoo! And I've got Cindi Tripken with me, a former client of many times, to talk about something that's near and dear to my heart and many of my friend sets' hearts, downsizing. So I know this was just a topic that I was super excited to tackle because it seems like it's the topic of every conversation. If it's not downsizing, it is taking care of your senior parents, and people in our age group are having to do both. So today I want to talk about Cindi's process and what that looked like and what it might look like for you and how we can help you wrap your mind around it and maybe get into that next house in your journey. Cindi, tell me about what made you think about for the first time, let's maybe move out of this beautiful home with a beautiful garden you'd done and you'd staged it perfectly, and I was really surprised to hear you were ready to downsize.
Well, Ash, if you remember, we downsized twice. Remember,
well, you did.
We got rid of some kids and downsized from the log home, which you sold at the open house. And I freaked out. I was like,
what am I going to do next?
Where are we moving? In with you? Right. So we went from, what was it, 30?
What year was that?
90, something like that. So okay. Yes, 08, I think it was, when Derek graduated. Yeah. And that was, 3,300 square feet?
It was a big house.
Yeah, and then we downsized to 2,400 square feet and freaked me out because I was
what do you do with all your stuff?
Right, and we weren't real stuff people, and a lot of stuff went with my daughter.
Right.
Because, girls.
Your kids were grown at that point.
Yeah, and girls have a whole lot of more stuff than boys. He had soccer, but my daughter had girl stuff.
Yeah.
And she rode horses, so she had all her horse stuff. But there was still, and my husband is Italian, so he's a saver and a hoarder. And we had all his stuff. And so we built at 2,400 square feet on an acre. And so we had all the lawn equipment and all his stuff and a huge attic and a basement.
Well, it allowed y'all to still have that outlet of the yard or him. And you too, because you love your gardening. And
right.
I mean, they turned this place into a park, y'all. It was amazing.
And the basement, you can put things in and they go into those corners and into those eaves and
storage.
It's like the hinterland. It's like the hinterland. You don't even know what's there. Yeah. And then my son failed to launch, and so he stayed with us, and which was okay. He was working, he's supporting himself, he's coming in.
Saving money.
Didn't know he was there, right? And then he found the love of his life. You sold him a house. He launched, got married. We're waiting for a grandchild now. And I'm like, why are we here?
Yeah.
And noticed more and more things piling on the bottom of the stairs because we had 17 steps. Notice I can count them.
Yeah, she had steps going into the entrance. You go in, she got steps going upstairs, she got steps going to the basement. It's a lot of steps.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm only 39, but the steps kept getting more and more arduous, and the laundry was upstairs.
Ooh.
And I'm thinking, and we have older parents and older friends with the church and in our social group and things, and there was one friend who lost her husband, and she moved into a new house, and she said to me, I wish my husband had been in this quote-unquote house, this last house. Mm-hmm. And that really struck me because we've been married for a long time, and I didn't want to be in this great new quote-unquote house without Phil. Yeah. I wanted memories with him, and I know that's a bad thing to think about. But
once you get to a certain age, you have to think about that.
Right. Plus, I was not going to pack alone.
Right.
All this stuff we had accumulated.
And a great point to point out to people. You said you downsized the first time. Wasn't your master up in this new house?
Yeah.
So was mine.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell our viewers and our listeners to maybe think about that twice.
Master up and laundry up.
Yeah, that's tough. And if I had it to do over again, I don't think I would. We downsized into a townhome downtown to be near downtown. But I think we wanted to be in a loft, and you have to look at HOAs when you're downsizing too. You're trying to save money, or you're looking at long term. And I was looking at the cost of an HOA, and it was a couple $100 more for the lofts than it is the townhome. And honestly, I wish I'd spent that couple $100 extra a month to be on one level.
One level, right?
Yes. How about you?
I was just diagnosed with arthritis in my ankles. My doctor said I'm paying for the life I chose to lead.
It's true.
Pay attention to that.
Yeah.
And so, I was really hard on my ankles. I was a ballet dancer. Be quiet, no comments.
Cindi was a ballet dancer, y'all. That's a new one. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
North Jersey Ballet.
Oh, wow.
And all that point and everything, I got arthritis. And so my doctor said, consider what that's going to continue to do to your ankles. Yeah. So when we started looking, it was all about one level. Yeah. And because the stairs... This last time, right. Yeah. The stairs are what was killing me. Yeah. Just that up, down. And like you said, my master and my laundry was upstairs.
And your parking was in the basement.
Oh, my Lord.
So you had to bring your groceries up.
Yes.
Yeah.
And trying to park on that driveway and bring the groceries in through the front was just ridiculous at times, too. So we had to start thinking about that kind of stuff. Yeah. And...
Well, what was it like when you finally wrapped your mind around doing this? You had a lot of stuff, Cindi.
Yeah, and a lot of memories in that house. Yeah. Of the Christmases and my daughter's wedding.
Yeah, because you were there almost a decade.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or right at a decade, I guess.
Yeah. And it was a good decade. Yeah. It's, my son's friends on the back screen porch hanging out. And it was my kids were young adults. They were ending high school and young adults. And ours was the house all the people came to. Yeah. And hung out, and big meals in the dining room.
That's the part that was hard for me to leave.
Yeah.
I missed that.
But then when I really started thinking about it, Alex had moved, my daughter had gotten married and moved to Charlotte. Mm-hmm. So she wasn't there as much anymore. Right. And I really started thinking about what was going on in the house was holidays. Mm-hmm. And Alex was starting to have some holidays at her house. Mm-hmm. Derek was working so much and spending some time at his girlfriend's house. And it really came down to reality.
Yeah. What do you need all that space for anymore? Right.
And I was cleaning
You don't have to be the person for the holiday anymore.
Not only that, my kids were having some gentle conversations with me that went like...
Mom, we don't want to clean out your stuff. I know where this is going, Cindi.
Yes. Not only we don't want to clean out your stuff, no... I don't want your antiques, or I don't want your china, or...
And I want to say something right there. I apologize for interrupting you. It's such an important point for our listeners to hear. Your children do not want your stuff. They don't want your brown stuff. There's a lot of articles out there about brown furniture, and that's the antiques. And sadly, I know our generation put a lot of emphasis on that, and the generations before us, and they were super important to us.
That we honored that.
That's right. We honored it. But I think that now in this digital world, and there's so many ways to save those memories other than holding on to that piece of furniture, that what we're finding, especially you go to an estate sale, and it makes me so sad, because we list people's homes after their parents have passed away and that sort of thing, and we go and they're having an estate sale, and there's 5 different sets of dishes sitting out on the dining room table, and it's a big antique dining room table. There's a price on the dining room table, and there's a price on every set of dishes, and then they might not even can give away the dishes. Right. And it breaks my heart personally, because I have family heirloom dishes. But that's not the next generation. No. That's not who they are, and they don't want our stuff.
And no offense to them, because our values are totally different than their values. Right. And at first I got really upset. I was like, what do you mean you're not going to want this? Or what do you mean you don't want that? Right. Or this, that, or the other thing. And it was offensive to me at first. And it kind of hurt my feelings.
Mine too.
But I had to understand that it's not about stuff for them, it's about the memories.
That's right.
For them, and it's about what they hold dear, and they just have to, they don't have to go and find a box of pictures.
Yeah.
They don't have to scrapbook.
Yeah, well, it's all at the
They
touch
can
of a
pull out
finger
their phone.
on their phone anymore.
Right.
Yeah, so it's a totally different. This
mindset.
generation is a totally different mindset. They've grown up in a different world than we grew up in. And we grew up, all our grandmothers had tchotchkes laying around, and you could, and it was
Hummels
and everything. And when they pass, it's like you get one, and you get one, and you get one.
My mother is still trying to give me stuff, and I'm like, no.
My mom actually, funny story, had her mother's house. We have a family member that owns it, and she just remodeled, and she gave my mother a door out of her mother's house, so my grandmother's house. My mom was so excited to get that door. My husband carried it all the way up the steps to her attic, and he came home and he went, and one day I will carry it down the steps of this attic.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
And
so I had in thinking about it, I was like, I've got all this stuff. I really don't want my children to be laden with all this stuff.
Exactly. It's a gift. It is a gift we give our children when we don't leave all that stuff for them to go through.
Right.
Because do you know how many houses I list, and the people spend weeks cleaning it out, and every day that they do that, it's an emotional turmoil roller coaster of cleaning out their mother or their father's things, and we can give them the gift of it being so much easier.
And I started thinking about what I feel like when I go to my mother's house, and it's got all these, like, I don't even know what those curtains with the frilly things, pulled back or called, and she's got her blue recliner and her pink little couch, and I was like, and therefore, by the grace of God, go I. And I did not want to be that person, 20, 30 years from now with my children. So I said to my husband, those juice glasses that you can't even fit your nose in with the cartoon characters on them, and all those boxes of trophies that you have that, you got to start looking at this because we're moving again.
Right.
And
well, let's actually talk about that per se, the actual decluttering process, because that's the thing that gives everybody analysis paralysis. When we'll actually go on a listing appointment and they'll say, we want to downsize. Let's set us up on a MLS strip, and let's be looking at houses, or maybe let's go out and see houses. But when you call them a month later, or 6 weeks later, or 2 months later, they say, I just got so overwhelmed I quit.
Yeah.
And I have to give them the advice that I finally had to give myself, because my husband and I made the decision in the fall of 2018. We finally listed our house in the summer of fall of 2017, and we finally.
And you're a
listed our
stuff
house.
lover.
Yeah, and then we didn't even get listed until almost a year later, because it wasn't until January that I could get past. I had 17 years worth of stuff.
Yeah.
And I raised my kids in that house. It's up here, and I had all those memories you talked about in that house. And and then I went upstairs and I started opening. I got the rooms cleaned out, so I was proud of that. The rooms were cleaned out. Then I started opening those little doors to the attics upstairs, all those mini attics I had to Cape Cod and the eaves, and just got completely overwhelmed. And so I had to break it down to where it was do 30 minutes every day. And if I just do 30 minutes, even if it's 5 minutes, just do a little bit every day. And that's finally what got me over the hump. How did you go about attacking that?
I started opening those spaces. I attacked one space. I put it all out in the middle of the floor, and I said to my husband, you haven't opened this box, and myself, for 30 years. Take a picture of it, whatever, because we're having a garage sale, and I picked a date on this date, and it's either going in the garage sale, you could save one, but you can only you have to decide what you're bringing, X amount, and that's the save box, this is the garage sale box, and this is the Goodwill box. And what didn't sell at the garage sale was not coming back into the house. That was the rule. And at one point, I also had a friend of mine there helping me make those decisions and helping my husband make those decisions.
Sometimes you have to have that person
third
that
party.
says you don't need this.
Yeah, you can. I'm sure you know people who could help them make that.
I had 4 giant Sterlite boxes full of kids' schoolwork that I wanted to keep. And I still was going to carry all of it.
But an example with that is what I did is I got these big frames and I put examples of their like Christmas things in one, their Easter things in another, and I hang them up at that holiday, and everything else went out.
I love that.
Yep, everything else went out, and there's on the wall at Christmas is their like second grade ghosts or whatever at Halloween. Everything else went out, and so you're honoring it.
Yes,
because you can't honor all that stuff stuck in a box.
No.
And so I tried to figure out ways to honor it.
I love that.
Yeah, and if you can't, that's why, sometimes having different eyes on the stuff can help you figure it out.
Well, one of the things that helped me too was as you're going through and you're putting things in those boxes, some of the times I realized I just had a bunch of stuff that just needed to be thrown away.
Right.
So we literally had a dumpster delivered, and it was less than $300.
Right.
And it sat right outside my bonus room window, and everything on the second floor that, like you said, wasn't being yard sale, wasn't being kept, wasn't being donated, just went out the window.
Right.
The trash.
Right.
And it was, after a little while, at first it was kind of like,
it's like, seriously, why do you need college transcripts?
That's,
you can
that's
get them
the kind
digitally.
Of stuff that went in there. It was my husband and I had kept all of our college textbooks.
Right.
It was like, why?
Right.
And he didn't want to part with his, and I was like, honey. And so literally, maybe I shouldn't be giving this advice. And if he watches this, I'm in trouble.
You will deny. Yes.
When you turned around,
Yeah.
out the window it went.
Right.
So. All right, so you get to the point and you get it all organized and you get ready to downsize. You wrap your mind around it.
And you commit. You
commit.
have to commit.
Okay.
You just have to commit. So then so you have less stuff. Get with your realtor and decide on square footage. And you can't backslide. You cannot allow your realtor, if you decide 1,800 square feet, whatever you decide, you can't decide based on the stuff you want to fit in.
That's right. That's right.
You have to. This is what I told you and Amanda. I want to plug my vacuum in 3 times.
Yeah.
And now the cord's really long.
Yeah.
So that's what 1,800 square feet.
It is.
Because I did not want. Our goal was we want to travel. I want to have a guest room, but it doesn't have to be huge.
Right.
So that was 3 bedrooms, and I wanted most of the square footage in my public space because that's where we live.
Right. That's where we live. We did the same thing. And let me tell you a secret. So we were, quote, downsizing, but it was more about one floor sizing.
Right.
And we had bought 5.5 acres, and we went and we got all of this. We spent a year getting ready to build, and we did the whole thing with the architect where they draw out your plan, and we started pricing it and getting, literally pricing on everything. Here was the big shocker. I'm a real estate agent. We sell almost 200 homes a year. How in the world did I not realize what I was getting myself into? It was $175 a square foot when we got through, and that wasn't counting the land that I already owned.
Because you did what all your clients do. Mm-hmm. I want this, I want
that. I want everything
your little heart desires.
Sink, right? And it started out, my husband and I said, we're doing 2,200 square feet. We ended up with 2,350 or so on the main level, but then I added a bonus room that was 400 square feet. So now we're at like 2,700 something square feet. And we were going to build a pool, and we were going to have the outdoor kitchen, and we're going to have this giant screened-in room on the back that had heating in the ceiling. And at the end of the day, we got that, and I kind of had an epiphany one day. And we've been moving towards this for 2 years, right? We're going to build on this land, build this beautiful home. And I had this epiphany, and I saw myself at 60 years old with a mortgage, which I didn't want. And
a yard you didn't want to take care of.
Right. And I was so excited to get rid of my 2-acre yard. What in the world was I going to be doing getting back into this?
Right.
A pool to take care of all summer, which would keep us from traveling that much. And I looked at my husband one night. We got in from work, and I said, what are we doing? And he was like, honey, are you sure you don't want to do this? This has been your dream. You wanted to build on this land that was family land. And I said, I did. But I think what I've recognized about myself, we asked ourselves, what did we most enjoy in the last couple of years? And we had lived downtown in Plant 64 while we were down, after we sold our home. just renting to kind of have fun downtown. And we realized we were the most happy we'd ever been since our kids had grown, living in a little 1,200 square foot loft apartment downtown, walking everywhere. It kept us healthy. And for us, we realized this is what we want. So we moved downtown.
Well, and I think that's really what you have to. I think most people want to move laterally, but smaller. And that may not be what's best for you. You really have to think, what is it that you want for the next 10, 20 years, whatever. Right. And Phil and I really thought about it. You know, like you said, our acre yard was like some kind of an arboretum park.
It was
and
spectacular.
At first, it was a labor of love. We spent all weekend out there with the kids, with neighbors, partying, having fun, but it was a lot of labor. Yeah. It was a lot of work. And in the end, it became something we dreaded. It was a big reason we left. Yep. So one of the things was we wanted to move somewhere where we could garden a little bit, right, but not have to take care of the lawn.
Right.
The second thing was one level. And the third thing was small enough where we could, in essence, zip it up and leave for several weeks at a time and not have to worry about the lawn, about the house, about everything, and have neighbors that were close enough that could watch our house for security reasons, because we were kind of isolated where we were on that acre. And we were in a neighborhood, but it wasn't real close. Right. And we were a little bit worried about having close neighbors, but we were like, it's a trade-off for the security. It is. Because I was going to be retired and home alone. Yeah. And, you know, I was a little bit worried about security as we aged. Yeah. So what that came down to is either a cluster home or attached living in a villa, which is what we ended up building. So you really have to reassess, do we want to move laterally but just smaller? Or do we want something totally different? And we moved into something totally different like you did. Mm-hmm. And we said, you know what? What's the worst? Yeah. What's the worst? If we build this and we absolutely hate it, it's not like we signed in blood.
Right, right.
We can
And we're in such a good market right now that if same thing, if anybody does that and they hate it, I don't hate my house. We love our location. We love where we are, but my knees keep reminding me, why did I buy a townhome with a bedroom? Right. I was like, I can do this 10 more years. Yeah. But I see a loft in my future. Yeah. Not too long from now. But because the market is still good, I know that, you know, I can flip that around if I need to and move into something else.
And the other thing that we discovered is furniture does not move well.
You did like me. You got rid of most of yours, didn't you?
Yes, because when I started thinking about moving the furniture from 2,400 square feet, you know, like the sectional couch and this, that, it does
Where
not
are these
move
big pieces gonna
well. Fit? So we also gave ourselves another gift, and we went to, you know, like the outlet center at Furnitureland South or whatever, and totally changed our style because the house you sold was a very traditional style home. Yeah. The house we built, I went kind of crazy and I went very modern. I was like, let's just totally change our life for the last chapter of our life. And it's fun, isn't it? Oh my gosh. We had so much fun. And I was like, you know what? If I'm going to downsize, I'm not going to look at something as this is bad. Right. Let's
make it fun.
Yeah, let's just make it fun. And I went to Furnitureland South, got a free decorator, went to the outlet center where it's cheaper, and just said, I want that couch, that chair, and pieced together with things that did fit. Yes. And had a blast.
Oh my goodness.
It was so much fun.
I have to tell you a secret. So this is 12-year-old Ashley talking, right? So I walked into my house one day and I had such and it looked so pretty and the sun was coming through the front windows and I had finally gotten it set up just the way I wanted. And those beautiful dark wood floors that I wanted and that I had wanted for years. And I walked in and I just had this overwhelming sense of joy because it was so small and we had cleaned that weekend and it took us 30 minutes. Right. You know? And I was just so happy to be there that I twirled all the way down the floor through the living room the living room goes right into our kitchen. And I was just so giddy that was my house now and I didn't have 3,800 square feet to clean.
Right. And the deep carpet that you need the Dyson to vacuum and it's
just freedom.
Yes.
It is freedom. And it's just, like you said, we both own homes now that we don't have a yard to take care of.
Right.
And if we want to go somewhere for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you shut the door, you lock it, out you go.
Right.
It's great.
Phil and I sit there now on Friday night and say, what are we going to do this weekend? And it's like, let's go to that llama winery. And I'm like, llama winery?
I've heard a lot about that.
We have to go. It's so fun.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. And it's like we're like kids again because we're not tied to a house a yard, and it's great.
You don't have to blow the leaves this weekend.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
All right. Well, I think we've talked about everything that we wanted to hit, and the biggest thing we can say to you is if you're ready, give us a call. We'll walk you through it. We'll hold your hands. We'll cry with you if we need to.
We'll get some boxes for you.
Yeah, and then we'll celebrate together when you get into that home. So thank you so much for joining us, Cindi.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it. Love you, girl.
Okay, love you back.
Thanks for joining us on episode 3 of the Ashley Lay Real Estate Podcast. As always, if you or someone you know is looking to buy or sell, give us a call. Contact info will be in the show notes below.